Good morning and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Business Minds. We are your source for live business coaching and social learning. And I want to introduce my co-host, my fabulous co-host, Melissa.
Good morning. We are so happy you joined us today, and I'm grateful to be here. I went through the weekend not having a voice, so I was praying that the Lord, if He wanted me to use my voice today, would give it back to me, and He did. So I'm really excited to be here with a voice and welcome our guests.
Absolutely. We are so thrilled to have our guest with us here today, Lisa Friedrich and Mark Friedrich. So Mark and I were chatting just a little bit before we went on air that we have something that connects us. And our tagline is connecting and collaborating, but this is a non-business connection, right? So the non-business connection is that Mark's son, Adam, was one of my students at Robert Morris University. One of my best students, I should say. I really enjoyed having him there. I'm not saying that just because you're here
Proud
today
dad
either.
moment,
So
right?
yeah, a proud dad moment. So we'd love to finish out the month of January, as we said, by still focusing on the topic of planning. And technically our topic today was developing an organizational strategy, developing a framework that allows you to actually put your vision into place for you and make it happen. And there are elements of your strategy, not to get too in the weeds with it here for you, but your big strategy is the most important thing, like we talked about at the beginning of this session this month, vision, mission. But how do you drill that down into the various functions that your business has as well? And that's really where we want to turn it around to our guests, have them introduce themselves again, tell us a little bit more about what you do, Lisa, what your business is all about, and then we'll turn it over to Mark to share that same information.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Lisa Friedrich, and my business is Silver Evolutions. We are a move management company, and people say to me, what is that? What we do is we market specifically to the retiree community and those situations where they're faced with having to make a move. Sometimes they want to, many times it's because they have to. A lot of times they don't have families here. And so what we do is we come in and we're a resource for them. We meet with them, find out what's important to them, and then basically we sit down and we develop a plan. We'll look at a floor plan development for where they're moving, and then we use that as a springboard to help them decide, how can I move? What am I going to do with all of our stuff? So then we help them decide what's important for them to keep. We help them decide what's important to let go of. And then we bring the resources in to help them let go of those things. We supervise the move, we maintain inventory lists, and then if they want on the back side, then we unpack and we move them into their new home environment. Excellent. We make sure everything is connected, mailing address is changed, all of their utilities are connected. So all they really have to do is move in and just start getting adapted, enjoying the new season of their life.
Okay.
Great. How long have you been in business?
We've been in business for a year now.
Okay, great. Mark?
Yeah, I am an insurance agent. I have been doing this for the past 29 years. My main focus is on business insurance, so small to medium businesses, anywhere from probably 20 to 100 employees, whether it be their property casualty or their life health, group health insurance, that type of thing. And then also focus on personal insurance, auto, home, boats, motorcycles, RVs, all that kind of stuff. So pretty much everything. And long-term care is a real hot topic right now, and kind of follows up with what Lisa's doing.
Okay.
Yeah, so while you have different businesses that you're involved with, there are similarities. There are things that connect you, as you mentioned,
Yes.
for sure. And wondering what you currently have in place, and either of you can respond to this, of course, when you think about strategies or any strategic framework you already have in place, what are those things? And then we're going to hone in on specifically that one area that you both expressed interest in talking about today and collaborating on, and that's the marketing. But do you have a strategic plan? Do you have one in place? And how is it for a year? Is it a 3-year plan? You have anything that you've put together so far?
I have a strategic plan, and it's really been a 1-year plan, and I've made revisions to it again this January, moving forward in 2018. And basically what my goal is to be a key resource in the Central Illinois community, for retirees, for their families, and then for retirement communities. And then also reaching out to trust attorneys, trust officers at banks. So what I've primarily been doing, as we'll talk about, is our issue is multi-generational, reaching out to multi-generations. Okay. So I've really been focusing on meeting with the retirement communities, developing a rapport with them so that they can use me as a resource. I've joined a couple of networks. One of those is the Senior Care Network, and their focus is on seniors.
Okay.
That's a great network.
So it's really trying to get my name out there. I have Facebook, but I don't know that that's a really viable vehicle for me to use. So I'm really trying to pare down how I can get the word out there.
Okay. What about you, Mark, as far as planning that you traditionally do and what brings you to us today?
Probably my best success has been networking.
Okay.
I've been a member of BNI, Business Network International, for about 17 years. And then, as with Lisa, other networking groups, actually we're part of the same senior network group that meets once a month. And a lot of word of mouth, but most of my business is referral. But even with that being said, I'm still looking to grow and trying to decide how best to do that. And that's why we're here.
Okay, fantastic. Very good. Well, we mentioned earlier that one of the functions of all businesses is marketing. And I don't say this just because it's near and dear to my heart, but to me, it's probably one of the most, if not most important functions of your business. When you look at your overall strategy of your business, that's deciding how are you going to compete in the marketplace, right? Mm-hmm. And how are you going to position your business in comparison to anything else that might be out there that the consumer has as a choice. So your marketing strategy, we know the traditional information about marketing strategy. Most people have heard about the 4 Ps, product, price, place, promotion. But it seems that both of you, it's that promotion piece that we want to hone in on today, right?
For sure.
And to talk about target market, I think that was really where we felt, after looking at the concerns you had sent to us and what you wanted to focus on today, that's what we'd like to share with you and talk about.
So we really, when Cindy and I were talking about the questions that you all had sent to us prior to the show, like she said, target market came up, and so we wanted to hone in on really spending time on developing your psychographics and demographics of your target market. And why that's so important is because, as we discussed briefly before the show, time is our most valuable resource. It is the one thing in life we can never get back, right? And a lot of business owners think of their resources in terms of financial resources, but for individuals who are primarily responsible for all aspects of their business, I would beg to argue that perhaps time is a little bit more valuable than that money.
Very valuable.
So a lot of business owners that we work with, they define the target market, and both of you were key, and you defined your target market as the community. You're both members of the Senior Care Network, so you've got the parameters around kind of what your target market is. I had some suggestions that I was going to walk you through on how to do that. Perhaps some of them you have not pursued or might kind of spark some inspiration as to what you could do differently in getting the word out there. The one that comes to mind for both of you would be oral interviews. So just real quickly, personal observations is a way to define your target market. Employee-colleague observations, which is something that you benefit greatly from networking, right? You get referrals. People will tell you, oh, I know someone who's in the market for your services. But oral interviews going and talking to your client base and kind of finding out what their questions are. Oftentimes, I know with insurance or financial management, stuff like that, they always feel like you are trying to sell something.
Right.
A slightly different approach might be to go and engage yourself with your target market and just answer their questions. Be an information resource, right? So those oral interviews are asking, what are your concerns with when it comes time to moving? That might be something that you've never considered before, but just going and being that trusted resource without trying to say, here are my services. Rather, you're saying, what are your concerns, right? Might be an option. Written surveys is always a good way, and there's lots of tools out there to do that. But again, for both of you all's target market, that might not be where you want to spend your time in developing those surveys, but it is still a viable. I know lots of seniors out there that are better on their phones than I am. So, and focus groups. So this is modeled after larger marketing strategies where they pull together focus groups and just really ask questions and kind of promote discussions. But that might be an option for either of you to get together some of these groups, offer them a lunch, and kind of say, what are your concerns? What are, even beyond moving, what are your concerns beyond moving? And now are you worried, how are you going to get to the grocery store? Well, maybe through Senior Care Network, you have someone else you can bring into that focus group. So those are some suggestions. And then just research, which there's a plethora of data out there for anybody who wants it to go and get it on the internet. But sometimes mining that research is a little difficult. So those focus groups and interviews could help you do that. So those are kind of the hows. But then when you break out into the next phase of how do you get that information out in front of the people, Cindy, I know that you had some insight on that.
Well, one thing that I want to go back and mention is to encourage you to create a target market profile if you haven't already. And that just means, based on all the information you're gathering, write down and capture as much as you can about that target audience. And when Melissa mentioned demographics and psychographics, that's part of it. Demographics just means who are they?
Right.
That's age, gender, race, ethnicity, education level, stage in the family life cycle, which is really key to what both of you do there when you're talking about move services, insurance. And then geographic segmentation is just where are they? Where are the people that you are wanting to connect to? Where do they live, literally? Psychographic is getting into someone's head, as it said. It's their emotions, their habits, their motivations, their values, their beliefs. I'm wondering if you also ask yourself these questions. This would be interesting for both of you. Not just who are they, what do they buy, when do they buy, why do they buy? The last one's the one I really want you to give some thought to right now. For whom do they buy? Are seniors buying your services for themselves? Is there someone else that's really the person that might be buying those move services on behalf of that senior?
Exactly, and for me, it's not just the seniors, it's reaching out to those family members, because a lot of times they're the ones that are going to be making the decision and saying, you really need to move, Mom and Dad. We live in Florida, you're here, we need help.
Okay, so now seniors are not your target audience, are they? In that
Right,
case.
correct.
So any business can look at the entire market of people that are out there that could be served by what you offer, and you can segment the market. You can say, well, I do want to connect with the seniors themselves, but you also have that segment of my generation, the baby boomers, who have the aging parents, maybe even Generation X, because I know some people in that generation who are already faced with parents who have illnesses, and they're looking at having to make a decision about moving them and so forth a little earlier than what they had maybe thought. So now you have a different audience to build a profile about. And for you, Mark, it would be the same thing. You're not selling insurance to absolutely everybody out there. Sounds like you have some segmentation already. You have
Correct.
business clients and you have individuals as clients. So for you, thinking about your promotional strategy, is it trying to reach both of those, or is there one or the other that you feel is your bigger challenge? Is it reaching potential business clients or individuals?
Probably the main focus is business clients.
Business clients,
And
okay.
then a lot of the personal insurance I'd take care of would probably primarily be referrals that they've talked to their friends or,
Okay.
through community organizations I'm part of, that type of thing. So, you know,
So for both of you, you clearly have at least two target audiences for which you could build a profile. And that's really where you want to spend your time. Take those research tips that Melissa shared and learn absolutely as much as you can about them, not just from the who they are, but also where do they get their news? Where do they look for information? What magazines do they read? What radio stations do they listen to? What do they tend to watch TV more than radio? It's learning everything you can. And I do focus groups quite a bit with some of my clients, especially my clients that are membership-based organizations. But I love the in-person ability to really follow up on questions that you're asking, and then maybe do a survey as a follow-up too. But it's just learning as much as you can. You're talking about the ability to make sure you're not trying to be everything to too many people.
Right.
We all know that that's going to dilute your resources down. Learning about those buying habits, those purchasing. Who is it that's making the purchasing decision? Is it, are you connecting to the right people in those
Correct.
businesses or when you're building a profile? And for you, you said there's a certain size business that you tend to go after. Is that the profile that you want to stick with? Because another way that you can use the target market profile tool is to come up with a hypothetical profile, meaning is that a target market that could be viable for me that I'm not tapping into? And then,
Business partners. So, explaining the need for business partners to take an insurance policy out on each other. So if
Right.
something were to happen to the other one. And in doing that, in having that targeted approach, you're able to explain the need rather than try and sell them.
Correct.
The need that they probably have never thought about. Well, what happens to the business if something happens to me? Does my
Right.
family have to take a portion of my life insurance to either buy them out, or what happens to the other half of the business operations, right? Will they have enough money to replace me with somebody? Will they have that money to pay that salary? Or will one of the other partner be pressured to come up with that money to do the buyout or whatever? Oftentimes, just explaining it as an information resource to that target market will give them a perspective that they never even thought about.
Correct.
Lots of business partners are never even thinking about that step of what if, right? So once you define that target market, then giving them what they need. They need the insurance. They know they need the insurance. But before that, what do they need? They need the perspective. They need the information.
Correct.
Right? So becoming that information resource, and then the demographics on that targeted market are going to lead you as to how best to reach them. So maybe for that target market, maybe it's young entrepreneurs that are not thinking about that. Perhaps that is social media, right? Or a blog, or getting in a newspaper and writing a short, offering an informational resource in a newspaper on a regular basis about business partner insurance and the benefits of it. Once you define those target markets, that segmented target market, say, for example, business partnerships, that's really going to help you take that 2 steps back and say, okay, where am I going to get the most bang? Not necessarily for my buck, but for my time investment.
When you look at promotions, it's like having a toolkit or a toolbox. And I know I've always heard, don't use a hammer when you need a wrench instead, right? We've heard that old adage. Well, the same thing happens with promotions. They're just tools, and it's picking out the right tool that's going to best connect you to that target audience and also help you with staying within your budget when you have limited resources of time and money as well. So don't choose options just because you see everybody else out there doing it, is essentially
Right.
what we're trying to say here
Right.
too,
Sure.
is match it up to because there are a lot, it's overwhelming. When you just look at social media, it's like, well, which one do I pick? Is it Facebook? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Instagram? Is it YouTube?
Exactly.
Which is best? Don't try to look at it from that perspective. Instead, it's got to always come back to who am I trying to reach?
What
For
value do you
for
add?
example, what the work that I do, I have a booth at a conference every year that reaches HR professionals because I go into businesses and do customized employee development. So I want to connect directly with those. So I'm that investment that I make, and I also am a sponsor of that conference because that's worth it to me. The worst thing we want to do is a shotgun approach, as we
Right.
say in the marketing world, is just
Oh,
throw
exactly.
something out there and hope that it works. You want to make sure. So tell us a couple of things you have tried.
Well, one of the things that we've kind of both just dabbled in, but we are just not sure, like you said, we're going to get the bang for the buck, and that's social marketing. That's all you hear about is, oh, you have to do social marketing. Well, that's fine, but you have to be able to sit down every day and spend a significant chunk of your time with social marketing. So we've kind of shied away from that, and I'm going to be doing a couple of seminars.
Fantastic.
And so I'm wondering if Mark could also maybe kind of look, into that. Right, and maybe consider doing a couple of seminars, for some of the key insurance pieces.
When you start thinking about your businesses as being an information and content provider, it puts a different spin on it. Then it's just a matter of where do we give out that information.
Right.
One of the strategies that I used early on, and I continue to use after being in business 15 and a half years, is to do seminars, is to put myself in front of an audience to share the information, but then they also get to experience your personal brand and your business brand firsthand and what you're all about. That's a great perspective. That really is invaluable.
I heard something. I went to a seminar at Weaver Ridge over the summer for Alpha Media, and they said, you want your customers to know who you are before they need you.
Oh,
Very true.
exactly.
Becoming that information resource, well, if they already know who you are and they already know you're, one, you have good stuff, and two, you're willing to put your best stuff out there for free, right? Then you're not only known, but you're trusted.
Right.
And so,
No, it's an element of public relations, is how I look at that in the toolkit of all your promotional tools. Public relations is an often overlooked tool in that toolkit. And there's no guarantee that newspapers are going to print your news releases, but they do need your news. So don't hesitate to put something out there. And write news releases about your seminars that are coming up.
Oh, what a great idea.
Make sure that you
Yes.
put those out there and put them in places where the people you're trying to reach are likely to see that
that goes
news.
back to that target market profile. So they're at the library, they're at, they're at church groups. I mean, they're at, I know Peoria has a really good group for seniors that meet at Forest Park Nature Center, and they get together on a regular basis. Write those news releases and put it where they're going to be. So they're going to be at the library. We spend a lot of time at the library preparing for the
It's a
show,
great place
and
to meet.
yeah, you all were the main part of our discussion, and we looked around and we were like, she should come here. So, yeah,
Well, and book clubs was another group that, because we were at a library, that came to my mind yesterday
okay.
too. When you just, again, don't, as the old saying goes, put the cart before the horse. Don't start getting excited about, oh, we could do this, we could do that.
Right.
Start with that profile. Where are they likely to connect with you, they being your target audiences that you're attempting to reach? Where is the greatest likelihood that you're going to connect with those people? And then put yourself either physically there as doing a seminar or some kind of content. If you do go to the level of purchasing some advertising, that would be the last thing I would tell you to do right now, unless you, yeah.
Right.
And those events that they're holding for those seniors, those volunteer opportunities, those really are your chances to build those relationships and be
Right.
that information resource and just kind of address those questions that they have. I mean, we all have lots of questions, and none of us want to feel like we're being sold. So if you're going with a different hat on, but you've also got the information, you're a blessing in that way alone. Right?
The other
Absolutely.
thing I would encourage you both to do, if you're not already in the habit of that, is to make sure that you're capturing the information to be able to follow up with the people that you're interacting with in all of these
exactly.
venues. That somehow there has to be a way for you to build a base to be able to follow up with them, as as anyone in any type of selling situation would do. But you can also offer a free downloadable report. You're going to write a report on the 8 things you need to keep in mind in preparing for a senior move. And then that all those people you've captured contact information for, you can send them an invitation to opt in to your downloadable report. And now they're looking at you again in a more trusted way. You've captured that trust at that level. Now you can take it on from there.
That's a great idea.
Any other quick question? Otherwise, we're going to.
What you guys can think of?
Not anything I can think of.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it has been a pleasure to have you as our guest today and to learn more about what you do with Ledgestone, Mark, and with Silver Evolutions, both such, valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. The cohesiveness between you two, I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but as a couple, the value that both of your businesses add are very complementary of each other. And I
Absolutely.
love that. I think that says a lot about you guys.
Thank
I
you.
absolutely
We like each
agree.
other.
We do.
Well, it does show, and we're just so honored to have you join us today and
Thank
put
you.
your trust in us to share some information. And we wish you all the best as you move forward with this. And
Appreciate that.
from what we've gathered about you today, I sense you'll both be successful.
You're on the right track.
You're
for
on the
sure.
right track for sure. Absolutely agree.
Well, we appreciate your time today and your insight. It's just
Thank
valuable.
you. Thank you. Well, we want to take time with our viewers to give you a look ahead to February. We're so excited to announce our theme for February in keeping with Heart Month and specifically heart health. Our theme is infusing heart into your business because it's so important that we think about individual and workplace well-being. So what we're going to cover as our topics, you want to share that list of topics
Yeah,
with our viewers?
February 6th, we're going to focus on managing your thoughts to manage stress. On February 13th, we're going to give you some tips on how to evaluate your company culture. The 20th, we're going to talk about workplace civility. And on the 27th, we're going to discuss leading with presence. So we know that leadership is kind of one of those misnomers that's out there, and so we're going to really dive into how you lead and be present and mindful in doing that.
Absolutely. So if you want to visit our website, InsideBusinessMinds.com, you can find more information about that upcoming schedule, and also visit Business Minds on Facebook. Always happy to connect there. And please remember that we want to know your interests in future topics as we plan out the rest of our year. So please email us at businessminds@email.com. You can find that information on our website and our Facebook page as well. We want to hear from you. If you're interested in being a guest, please also reach out to us by email. And we look forward to hearing from you. What are those future topics that you'd like to have us feature on the show? And if you're interested in being a guest. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
PeoriaLife.com